The NFL, first Adam Schefter reported it exclusively on Twitter and his Facebook page, and now the NFL has announced that Tom Brady has been suspended 4 games. The Patriots lose a first-round pick in 2016 and a fourth-rounder in 2017, and the team fined $1 million.
Wow.
That's harsher than I thought it was going to be.
Way harsher than I thought.
I thought he'd probably get suspended for 1 game. So they are also holding Belichick and the organization culpable in this because they're taking draft picks away and fining Robert Kraft $1 million. So that's a big hit for deflating the footballs. And as I've said before, and I will stand by this, I don't think that this has anything to do with Tom Brady being a great quarterback. If he played with footballs that were overinflated, he'd be a great quarterback. He just would. But it's about breaking rules, and it's also about a history of breaking rules, Don. And I think that this is one of those repeat offender things, almost like when you get a repeat tax offender in the NBA or the MLB, you get fined more. And I think that the kind of lawlessness that has pervaded the Patriots over the last couple of years with Spygate and things like that.
Right.
I think this is a slapdown for that, and probably the fact that Brady did not turn over his communication, emails and text messages, that they said, okay, if you're not going to help us out, then you're going to get zapped too. So Brady will sit down the first 4 games to defend the Super Bowl title. This is pretty harsh.
This is very, very harsh. I mean, that's a month of the season. That's the first 4 weeks of the season.
25%. That would be like somebody being suspended 40 games in baseball.
You know, and here is their schedule the first 4 weeks of the season. They will open up on that Thursday night, kicking off the season at home against the Steelers, then at the Bills, home against the Jaguars, at the Cowboys. I mean, I think if you're a Patriot fan, if they go 2-2 without Brady, you're doing backflips.
Which they were 2-2 last year.
Yeah, they always start the season 2-2.
But, I mean, still, that's 4 games. I mean, maybe it's 1-3. And, you know, and with the Bills and with the Jets and the Dolphins a little bit more improved, I mean, you might get off to a start that you can't get out of it. Now, if they go 2-2, like you said, they've done it before. But if they go 1-3, I don't think they go 0-4. I think they could beat the Jaguars. But still, I mean, they could put themselves in a bit of a hole. But let's extrapolate it out a little bit more. How much of this was, hey, there's no favoritism towards the Patriots, and the NFL saying, hey, it's been a bad year for us of getting it wrong. And we are going to make a statement that despite the Patriots being one of the more popular franchises, despite Tom Brady being one of the faces of the NFL, we can't have the integrity of our sport damaged anymore. And it's one thing to have to live with all of the things that have gone on criminally with the National Football League. But the one thing that you can never have is the integrity of the sport between the lines, and are what you're seeing real. And if guys are trying to get away with cheating, whether it's Spygate, whether it's Deflategate, whether it's Bountygate, the NFL has to come down harshly. I'm surprised it's 4 games. Because as you said, Michael, that's a pretty decent portion of your schedule. That's like 40 games in baseball.
Now you've turned over the quarterbacking job to Jimmy Garoppolo for the first 4 games.
The fact is that the integrity of the sport is on the line, and you cannot tolerate cheating. Even if you don't think it benefited them, they still did it. What I would say to people is they still would have beaten the Colts. They still would have won the Super Bowl. Then why are you doing it? If you're going to run the risk, it's either you completely defy anything that you're ever told. You would think they'd be on high alert after what happened with Spygate, or it does benefit you that it's worth a try. Either way, the NFL can't allow that. Is 4 games excessive? Maybe, but it definitely sends a statement to everybody else in the National Football League that cheating is not going to be tolerated.
And from Mike Reese's timeline, just tweeting out, John Jastrzemski, Jim McNally so Robert Kraft, Patriots owner, has advised Commissioner Roger Goodell that employees John Jastrzemski and Jim McNally have been suspended indefinitely. Both of them cannot be reinstated without prior approval of NFL EVP Troy Vincent. Tom Brady's suspension technically by the NFL is termed as conduct detrimental to the integrity of the league. Tom Brady can participate in all off-season training camp and preseason activities, including preseason games.
Right, which helps because if he wasn't allowed to do that, then he wouldn't be physically ready for games 5 and 6 of the season, so he can jump right in.
So he's going to come back against the Colts.
And it's a big game, primetime game against the Colts, and anything less than 2-2, I think it could definitely affect their season. This
is big. This is really big, and now there are so many offshoots of this and ramifications, which we'll talk about. Do you not believe that Brady is a great quarterback? Does this put a stain on the 4 Super Bowl championships that the Patriots have won with Belichick and Brady? I mean, there's so many things that come from this. Was this an overreaction by Goodell because he did not want to say or did not want to be thought of as somebody who really bowed down to Robert Kraft because they're so close, and did he go overboard? But just remember this is the same commissioner who gave Ray Rice 2 games for slugging his wife. And he's taking 4 games from Tom Brady and $1 million from the team for deflating football slightly below 12.5 PSO.
And I will tell you the difference
in just a moment. Call in 1-800-919-3776. Kayla Greca, Rucco, and you right here on Yes and on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. All right, so the NFL, in its statement, we're all trying to read through it during the break, said that a big reason for this penalty is that because of Spygate, it makes them repeat offenders. Sure. And they also said that the lack of cooperation played a role, and the fact that Tom Brady refused to provide text, etc., probably got him the 4 games as well. And for Brady, it's probably a good deal for him because I think those texts would confirm. Now he can always hide behind the fact, you know what? They suspended me. I bet you he's going to appeal. Maybe it gets dropped down to 3 games, 2 games. I'm not sure. The Patriots did say before the penalty was handed down they would accept it and not appeal. But I think Brady will appeal, and we'll see exactly what comes on. But if he appeals, he might have to show those texts.
Yeah, he might. And I don't know if he'll ever want to do that because I think he would further damn himself. As you said, there's still that little nebulous, maybe 10% he didn't really know what was going on. But to your point, how can you give him 4 games when the original instinctive penalty to give Ray Rice was just 2? Well, I'm not saying that it's right or it's wrong, but it's just like when Pete Rose was banned from baseball. There were worse people than Pete Rose. There were nasty criminals that played Major League Baseball that didn't get that kind of discipline. But when we're talking about the integrity of the sport, a sport will fold up shop and cease in popularity if the fans do not believe what they see between the lines. None of us were alive at the time, but if you read the history, the Black Sox scandal of 1919 destroyed baseball until Babe Ruth started hitting 60 home runs a year. If people can't believe what they see, if the true ability on the field is not what causes the wins and losses, if cheating is accepted, Michael, then the fans will lose confidence in the game, and that's why we're talking about the integrity of the sport. There could be a few bad guys that kind of get through, but when a fan watches the game and they can't believe what they're seeing because there's cheating going on, then you start to lose popularity. We talked about how does the golden goose get slayed. Football has never been more popular. Well, if the fans can't believe what they're watching, that's when the popularity suffers. And as you said, Michael, this is the second time they did it. So part of it's punishing the Patriots for cheating, but also you want to create a detriment for anybody else to think about it. For the Patriots to go through the reputation damage that was caused by Spygate and then to be involved in another controversy a short time later, I mean, you begin to wonder, was the punishment harsh enough for Spygate to stop them from ever thinking about cheating again? You have to come down hard on these guys to get it to stop. And maybe this will finally be the deterrent to put it to rest.
And the other thing is they can't use the Ray Rice punishment as the barometer moving forward because they know they got that one wrong.
Right.
You know, I mean, you're not gonna use what you've publicly called a huge mistake, getting something totally wrong as your barometer for all decisions moving forward. No one would do that. That would be asinine to do that. So, yeah, we always can, if we want to, go back and say, well, they gave Ray Rice 2. How are they giving him this? But the reality is we're working off of something that was incorrect.
Sometimes you do that. I mean, there were bad contracts handed out. That sets a template for future contracts. Yeah, Even though it's a bad contract, you negotiate off the bad contract.
But it's clearly different. Just look at what Greg Hardy just got.
Right. Now, Andrew Brandt tweeted out part of this, the letter that was written to them. This is to Brady, quote, your failure to cooperate, refusing to produce any relevant electronic evidence despite being offered extraordinary safeguards is one of the reasons he got suspended for the 4 games. And I really believe that if they showed his text, he probably told these guys to do that. That's why. Now, I said that one of the reasons he didn't want to do the text, he probably has personal text to his wife. Maybe he was sexting with her, whatever. You have no idea about pictures. But they said that he could give them just the text that were relevant, and he refused to do it. No, so to me, when you refuse to hand over evidence, there's a reason for it.
And I think I could be wrong about this, but I think they might do it in front of him with a third-party attorney, so there are other ways to do it. The other part in the portion, I just read the whole thing, of Troy Vincent's letter to Tom Brady, he also talked about inconsistencies in his testimony, where he said after the phone party said, and by providing testimony that the report concludes was not plausible and contradicted by other evidence. So even though we didn't see as much of the testimony in the actual report, which was a bone of contention for Don Yee, Tom Brady's agent, clearly what Troy Vincent's saying is in the testimony Brady actually gave, he was dishonest or inconsistent with other evidence that they had.
One thing that does, kind of perk you up a little bit and make your ears stand up and go, well, I thought that in the investigation, Belichick was exonerated. He had nothing to do with it. Well, aren't you hurting Belichick with the first-round draft pick? And what does the organization have to do? I guess it's just because of an air of lawlessness around the team, which is pervasive because of Belichick.
Yeah, they do address that very aspect of things, too.
And what they say?
They said, in accepting the findings of the report, we note that the report identified no evidence of wrongdoing or knowledge of wrongdoing on the part of any member of the coaching staff, including head coach Bill Belichick, or by any Patriots staff member, other than Mr. Yastrzemski and Mr. McNally, including head equipment manager Dave Schoenfeld. Similarly, the Wells report is clear that Patriots ownership and executives did not participate in any way in the misconduct or have knowledge of the misconduct. Nonetheless, it remains a fundamental principle that the club is responsible for the actions of club employees. This principle has been applied in many prior cases. Thus, while no discipline should or will be imposed personally on any owner or executive at the Patriots, discipline is appropriately imposed on the club.
Then why wasn't Belichick suspended like Sean Payton? So what you're saying is ignorance is not a defense.
Well, I think Sean Payton lied to the commissioner, and that might have had something to do with his discipline, that he actually lied with him in the midst of what was going on. And Belichick, maybe he wasn't afforded the opportunity to lie, but he has not yet lied to him.
But what is consistent with Bountygate is the idea that ignorance is not a defense. The culture of cheating. You would think Bill Belichick would tell every single employee, hey, guys, we got busted for Spygate. We can't afford to have this happen again. I am not going to tolerate any cheating going on with my organization. The fact that two guys can do this under Bill Belichick's watch, even if he didn't know, kind of tells you that maybe he should know. Now, every single head coach and general manager and president and owner, they're going to be paying attention to what's going on now because now they know the impropriety of somebody down the food chain can actually affect them financially, draft picks, and possibly the reputation of the franchise. So maybe you need to be in the know.
I think that Belichick is such a brilliant tactician that he looks for every edge. He's pushing every envelope. He's walking right up to the line on everything because he wants to be smarter than the next bear. But sometimes when you push the envelope, you break the envelope. When you go up to the line, you cross the line.
Yeah.
I think they cross the line a lot.
But why would you dance on the line knowing you've already gotten busted for breaking rules?
Well, maybe he didn't even know about this. I think Brady danced on the line because he was, I think I read where Brady and Peyton Manning were the ones who pushed for this rule about the ability for each team to actually prepare the footballs for the game. So what do you think is going to happen? It's a dumb rule by the NFL to let the individual teams prepare the footballs. You're asking for somebody to cheat, and they got it. Somebody cheated.
Again, the gamesmanship is to mess with the balls before the referees see it.
Right.
The cheating is when it's after the fact.
Right.
So that's why this has really become such a controversy. But, hey, they're your employees, Michael, and the reputation of the organization is affected. Now, does this affect the Patriots going forward? Sure it does. Now, if Tom Brady comes back and leads the Patriots to another Super Bowl, you figure that, hey, listen, he continues to win. Maybe he can help his legacy out. But as Alex Rodriguez says, judge me from this day forward. Up until this day, this is the second time the Patriots, as Tom Brady as their quarterback, have been caught for cheating. If that affects how you look at Tom Brady, how am I supposed to tell you you're wrong?
And one other thing I don't understand, the Patriots have suspended McNally and Yastrzemski. Why would they ever be allowed back in the building? Suspended them, unless what you brought up late last week, that they know state secrets. They know where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
And if you bang these guys, they're going to talk.
That's
because
what
they
I would
deserve
be
to be
worried
fired. If they did something wrong, I mean, the guy Yastrzemski was it, or was it McNally, took the balls from the official's room.
McNally.
Took it into the bathroom to deflate it. You got to fire the guy. I don't want a guy to lose his job, but that's criminal what he did.
Well, and I think probably the issue would be if you fire him, what does he say then? Because if Tom Brady is intimately involved in the process of making sure this gets done in a certain way, then each one of these guys knows and isn't going to be invested in Tom Brady anymore once they're no longer Patriot employees.
They're going to write a book.
Yeah, that's what I would worry about if I was Tom Brady here.
Because the NFL says that they have to approve these two guys ever coming back.
Right.
So if I'm the NFL, there's no way these guys should. The NFL, as part of the discipline, should say, you know what, they cannot be allowed back in the Patriot building ever again. They broke the rules. They knew they were breaking the rules. So did Brady, but they were the ones who actually played out the whole operation. Brady didn't put the pin in the football. I mean, he's almost the brains behind it. Before we go to the phone calls, which we do for most of the 6 o'clock hour, I think 4 is too harsh. I really do. I would probably have given him 2. I think that 6 was going to be, people talk about 8. I thought that would be ridiculous. I guess 4 is like splitting the baby, so to speak. And I think 4 is an awful lot.
Well, that he can still go through training camp. He can still play in the preseason. It only affects those 4 games. The organization's a repeat offender, and he didn't cooperate. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this thing. Plus, I also think that they wanted to get this right. And I think the relationship that he had with the New England Patriots and going to Kraft's party before the championship game, I think Roger Goodell was trying to make a statement that, hey, there is no relationship. There is no bias. Yes, they're a huge franchise. Yes, he is the flagship face of this organization and this league. But it did not deter me to give him as grand a punishment as I could.
Well, way back when this all broke, Tom Brady was asked, are you a cheater? And this was his answer.
I don't believe so.
Well, the NFL does believe so. We'll be back with your phone calls, 1-800-919-3776. Kayla Greco, and you. Big news in the NFL right here on Yes and on ESPN New York, 98.7 FM. All right, so Brady suspended 4 games. Here's a very interesting part of Troy Vincent's letter to the Patriots. Quote, it is impossible to determine whether this activity had any effect on the outcome of games. There seems little question that the outcome of the AFC Championship game was not affected, but this has never been a significant factor in assessing discipline. Violations that diminish the league's reputation for integrity and fair play cannot be excused simply because the precise impact on the final score cannot be determined. I give you a bravo for that one. That's pretty much it. I think that they're a better team than the Colts. They would have blown out the Colts. The Colts are not quite ready for that level of play. But you know it's a rule, and you blatantly decided to break it. And that's what got them. They got hoisted by their own petard. That's it. Their arrogance is unsurpassed, and they just think that they're above rules. They just do. I think that when he appeals, it's going to be brought down to 2. And if it's brought down to 2, that's probably what I think it should be anyway.
Well, we're talking about one of the biggest controversies in the history of the NFL, Spygate 2007. And so 8 years later, with the same owner, with the same head coach, with the same quarterback, you have that organization do something similar. How could that possibly happen? Wouldn't you mind your P's and Q's after getting busted? Now, Belichick was fined $500,000 for Spygate. The organization, $250,000. They lost draft picks. So if you think about doing it again, what do you want it to be? You're going to have to fine harder. You're going to have to give up more significant picks, and your player that's the center of this controversy has to suffer something. Now, should it be 4 games, 2 games, 1 game? Hey, that's up for anybody to decide. But you can't look the other way on this. And even though it didn't affect the outcome of the game, why would you still do it with all the things that you're risking? Why would you do it?
And if it doesn't mean anything, why would you do it?
Why are you doing it?
It must mean something.
And if you're a Patriot fan and you're getting mad at everybody for calling them out for what they did, really direct your anger at the team. Because why on earth are you going down this road, given the history? As a fan, what did you want? You wanted a title that was not tainted. Not that your others are, but you've had to hear for years, well, you haven't won a title since Spygate. You haven't won a title since Spygate. And now your most recent championship, you're going to have to hear, well, how about Deflategate? How about Deflategate? Don't be mad at the people who are assessing the situation that you created. Be mad at the people who created it.
And should the NFL take some responsibility for having these rules be as willy-nilly as there are, that they're not watching this, that they're not taking a closer eye at a rule? But still, you have to blame the guys that were aggressively going after it. And don't just focus on the game against the Colts, people. You think that's the only time they did it? Do you think all this, and by the text messages, no. So how many games were won? How many tight games, like the game against the Ravens, maybe goes a different way? How do you explain the fact that this team never fumbles the football? So, yeah, it stinks if you're a Patriot fan. And Tom Brady is still great, and Bill Belichick is still great, and nobody's taking those championships away. But if you want to be mad at people talking negative about your organization, look in the mirror, people. Your organization put this on themselves.
Well, remember we had on Shannon Sharp, and he said he's a member of the Hall of Fame. He said if Tom Brady gets elected to the Hall of Fame, there's a good chance he would not attend when he is inducted. So I think he's still going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't think that people will look at this the way they look at PED users in baseball, but cheating is cheating, and there are different levels of cheating, but he cheated.
Hey,
to be suspended 4 games, Don, he broke the rules, which means you cheated.
This is going to be a trailer that's attached to the New England Patriots for as long as they talk about it.
It's in the second paragraph of Tom Brady's obituary.
Now,
in the New York Times.
Now, and Tom Brady still has time, and Belichick still has time. If they go back and win another Super Bowl, maybe they can kind of change the image.
But we thought that with this Super Bowl, this was the Super Bowl that was going to be the cleanser.
That's right. And that was the talk up until Deflategate. The talk was this was going to be the Super Bowl that was going to change everything. Right. Well, every Jet fan that would call up and say, "What has Belichick and Brady won since Spygate?" Yeah, they went to a couple of Super Bowls, but this team they won 3 Super Bowls and haven't won one since. Well, now what's it going to be? Well, they haven't won a Super Bowl since Deflategate. And time is running out. I mean, you're talking about a quarterback in its late 30s. Bill Belichick's already past 60 years old. So I don't know how many more kicks at the can they're going to get, but this is something that they'll never, as you said, it's the second paragraph of the obituary. It's going to be in the book. It's going to be what's talked about all the time about this team.
Let's take some phone calls. Paul in Queens, you're next on the Michael K. Show.
Good afternoon, Michael, Don.
How you doing, Paul?
I'm a big Patriots fan. I love Tom Brady. My friends make fun of me. I see no difference in the deflating the balls than I do in guys putting Vaseline than silicone on their jerseys. And one thing that I haven't heard anybody speaking to is that Patriots accomplished what they had to last year. And it was done under scrutiny. It was done under... They had no chance to cheat, and they beat the Seahawks. Tom Brady was great. He came back from down 14 in the fourth quarter.
I agree with everything you're saying. Then why would they do something so stupid?
Because everybody does it.
But that's not a defense, Paul. You know, everybody speeds, but the guy gets pulled over is the one who gets the ticket.
And do we know that everybody's taking the footballs after they're examined by referees and putting a needle in them to lessen the air?
And that's a new rule. It will come out in the future that guys were getting around that, too. Not everybody liked that ball to deflate it. And I don't believe that made a big difference, but maybe with fumbling. And everybody says the Patriots
But you know, you just said maybe with fumbling. That's like saying, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? I mean, a team that doesn't fumble wins games. So if they're winning, I don't think that Tom Brady's deflating the football so they don't fumble it. He wants to handle it better, and he doesn't want to fumble it. But a positive offshoot of that is that the running backs don't fumble.
And listen, I know these are fans, but when you hear that defense, that's the defense of guilty people. Oh, it really wasn't much of an advantage. Everybody does it. Well, you got caught. Right. So what's the NFL supposed to do? Is the NFL supposed to come out and say, we're not going to punish Tom Brady because the other 31 teams do it too? How would that look? Then Roger Goodell certainly should resign because the rule is being violated by every single one of his teams. Well, didn't a general manager get suspended 4 games for texting when he wasn't supposed to in Cleveland? I mean, there are rules that have to be followed here.
And the cover-up has something to do with it, too. They even say that. They don't use the word cover-up, but not being as open in Brady's case with the messages that he's had, having contradictory testimony. Also is mentioned that the other 2 guys had different areas of their testimony that was dishonest or evasive, whatever word they end up using. Patriots didn't make McNally available for an additional interview, even though Ted Wells said they really want him and that it would probably work against them if they don't. So you also...
Yeah, and Robert Kraft said, well, he had a full-time job.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, what did they say? They said, we'll go to you wherever you want, whenever you want. And the Patriots wouldn't make him available. So I think that goes into it, too. If you're squeaky clean, what do? Hey, look at everything. Right, I'm fine. Right. Go ahead.
I wonder, though, since you looked at McNally and Jastrzemski's electronic phone records, anything that Brady sent them, wouldn't that show up, or do you have it people send?
Yeah, I don't understand that part of it. I'm not sure. Yeah.
All right, Brady has 3 days to file an appeal of his suspension, so I would think he's going to do that. Now, the Patriots said that before the punishment was handed down, they would accept whatever it was, which would lead you to believe that they thought that something was going to happen, but maybe they never thought it was going to be $1 million in a first-round draft pick and a 4th-round draft pick. More of your phone calls, more of our take on this as well. But first, Don, a lot going on. Well, Trey Wingo brings up a really good point in a tweet. He said, okay, you did this suspension, whatever. Now the NFL should do the smart thing and change the way footballs are prepared.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be in the hands of individuals that are not, I would say, Switzerland. There can't be people that work for the Patriots that are handling the footballs that will be used by the Patriots. No. A football should be a football should be a football. That's what it is in baseball. That's what it is in basketball. They don't change. The Rangers don't prepare the pucks in hockey for games at Madison Square Garden. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I would think in any sport, the most important thing is the object they're using. Whether it's the puck, whether it's the baseball, whether it's the basketball, whether it's the football, that's pretty important stuff. And I would think that that's something they'd watch it like a hawk. And for a guy to just be able to take the game balls into the bathroom to doctor them up, how can that possibly happen? How can that happen? How can that happen on the NFL's
really,
watch?
Why aren't the officials even fine then? How you going to let a guy carry footballs out of the room?
Yeah, you know what? You have a point. Maybe that officiating crew should be disciplined in some way for even letting it happen. But here's the question. How often is it happening? We know that this guy was called the deflator before the season even began. So is this something they have down to a science where they yank the footballs away from the officials?
It doesn't sound like it takes much of a science to get it done. I mean, there's no watchful eye. I mean, this is a sport that fines you for wearing your uniform incorrectly.
Right.
They actually hire former football players for every team to watch.
Didn't Joe Morris do that?
Joe Morris did it for the Giants. I believe he might still do it. So they obviously care. They obviously pay attention to every little minute detail except what happens to the footballs after the official season. Now, I'm not excusing the Patriots, but the Patriots are smart, and they saw that this is an area that can be exploited, and they exploited it. Doesn't make it right, but the NFL's got to tighten up their ship as well.
All right, let's take some phone calls. People want to get in on this. Randy in Wayne, New Jersey, what do you got?
Just a couple things. One, Tom Brady stood up there and just lied to our face.
Yes, he did.
That to me is huge. Secondly, the 2 guys that he worked with, I mean, they're going to do whatever Tom says. They're like his boss. What if they say no to him? He'll fire him in a heartbeat. And third, I mean, that helped the whole team just about. Wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, quarterback. It's more than just one guy. These Patriot fans are blind.
You know, the thing you say about the 2 guys, Randy, it's really a very good, legitimate point. Imagine if they said to Brady, we're not doing this, they would have been fired. So maybe that's why the Patriots, and also because of the secrets that they know, but they seem very, very amenable to doing this stuff when you look at their text. Yeah, isn't it funny, though? Brady got himself. If he doesn't throw that stupid pick against the Colts,
they never know.
They never know.
So true.
It was on him.
But what's amazing is he really could have handled this totally differently. If he comes out and he says,
guys. I didn't think it was a big deal.
If he says, I mean, I used to tell the guys all the time, please make it as deflated as possible. Right. I don't know how they were going about doing it, but I always told them that.
He lied to our face. And also, and then Robert Kraft demanded that the NFL issue an apology when they find out that everything is wrong. What's Robert Kraft going to say now? Does he apologize to the NFL for? I mean, he came off as kind of buffoonish,
and that's probably why
because his people lied to him. Brady lied to him.
That's right. But it's also the organization where him to come out and defend his guys the way that he did.
Right.
Maybe that's why when he maybe deserves the $1 million. Hey, this happened on your watch too, and you were so shocked by it. Well, maybe you need to pay more attention to what's happening with your team.
I think Brady lied to Belichick. Brady lied. Brady got up on that stage, and I told you that day, if you want to replay the tape, the way he looked with that goofy hat on, he didn't seem comfortable. He looked like he was under an investigation by the FBI. He looked like he was lying. He just looked like it. Go take a look at that whole press conference. He was stammering. He didn't know what he was saying. It didn't make any sense. Are you a cheater? I don't think so. I don't think so. Boom, you're dead.
And by the way, Kraft, we're just learning, Bob Glauber tweeted it, he had informed the NFL last week that he suspended those 2 guys. So there's his admission right there that you're doing something wrong.
Right.
As much as his statement again, we're disappointed, it's not enough. What was the end of it? But we'll accept any punishment that's coming our way. Why? Because you did something wrong.
Let's go to Mark in Newark. You're next on ESPN New York.
Hi, guys. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good, Mark. How you doing?
I'm good. Besides the fact that I'm totally outraged, I'm not going to blow a tap like I usually do. But I think the NFL dropped the ball. I was calling for Belichick and Brady to be fired for the season, and here's why. Not because I'm so mad. I'm a Jets fan. Not because I'm so mad that Brady lied. He did, and I'm not so mad because of Spygate because they cheated. What I know for a fact is that the American public and football fans in general are not stupid. Now you just watch from every game, and Dom, you said it perfectly. Finally, somebody did. Is I got to believe what I'm seeing. Every game that the Patriots play this year, that Bill Belichick is on that sideline and the cameras can't do like they always do, you're going to hear vociferous boos because these teams feel as though they let the air out of the ball, and it does affect every aspect. It's the football. It's not a poo-poo thing. And you just watch.
But, Mark, you really believe that deserves a year? You think it deserves a year?
Use an expression like a story has legs. Well, watch the legs that happen every Sunday that New England plays an away game. Watch how those legs get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's all I got.
Now, again, we could sit here and argue how much he deserves, but here's the one part of it you have to consider. Did we even know anything about Spygate before it happened? Did we know that was a way to be able to infiltrate the other team, find out what they were doing? Did we even have an idea that somebody can deflate the footballs and to work to their benefit? So what else is going on? Now, isn't it fair to me to say, what else are the Patriots doing that maybe we're not thinking of? Bill Belichick's brilliant. They've been caught cheating twice already. So what other little advantage are they getting that nobody else has been able to figure out? What other way have they circumvented the rules of the NFL?
They have a guy who went to college with Belichick who has no football background at all. His job is to explore every single way to exploit the rules.
Yeah,
not break them.
Ernie
something. Exploit the rules. That's his job. This guy, this like nerd.
Ernie Adams.
Ernie Adams is there to find the little thing that they could push. And who knows what they do? They probably push everything.
Yeah, so what other thing that we never dream of in a million years have they been able to use? This is what happens in the mind of the football fan who now will watch a Patriot game when they win, say, oh, figures. What else is Bill Belichick getting away with? What else is happening that's nefarious here?
I also wonder, though, what exactly do the officials do here? They let the balls get taken out of the room and go to a bathroom and deflate it, right? Every single play, when the Patriots have the ball, an official will place the ball. If it was so grotesquely deflated, wouldn't they have noticed it?
They would.
Or is it like, well, no one complained, so we didn't do anything?
Right.
So there's a lot of people that dropped the ball here. That doesn't exonerate the Patriots. They have a culture of pushing the envelope.
But I'm sure there's a subtle difference in a bat. As Paul O'Neill said, he knows the difference between one bat and the other. Would an umpire who picked up that bat be able to tell the difference? Would an umpire throwing a ball back to a pitcher know the difference between one ball and another, where a professional pitcher making $1 million can figure out how to manipulate that over another one? So I'm not exonerating the officials. They should know better. But I don't know if you could, if a referee can pick up the ball and notice the difference the way a quarterback can. Isn't that fair?
I guess it's fair, but what I'm saying is it's probably not deflated to grotesque levels where you could actually see a ball deflated. It just shows you. I mean, when Brady said, "I wouldn't even know if I held the football," that was. Again, he lied.
Right.
I mean, he just blatantly lied. Mr. Golden Boy now has lost a lot of his luster.
Yeah, I mean, the lying hurts.
Because he lied.
Yeah, the cover-up versus the crime. We always know that.
Worse than the crime.
Yeah, that's
why the cover-up in Watergate, now everything's called Gate, worse than the crime.
Yeah.
Worse than the crime. Just admit it and throw yourself on the mercy of the court. Because who's the guy that has made out best after being a PD user? Andy Pettit.
Yep.
Threw himself, you know what, I did it. Who's the guy who's been the worst? Alex.
Yeah.
Because of the cover-up.
No.
Suing people, I didn't do it. Just when you get caught, you get caught.
But you know what Tom did?
Don't worship at the church of Shaggy. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It's you.
But you know why Tom didn't? Because he wanted to play in the Super Bowl. That's why he didn't. If he admitted this at the time that it first came out, he would have put his playing in the Super Bowl
you think they were
in
going to
serious
suspend Tom
danger
Brady for the Super Bowl?
I don't know.
Jimmy Garoppolo was going to start the football.
If he comes out and says, yeah, I deflated the footballs, maybe they wouldn't have. Maybe they would have said, hey, we need to look further into this. And I agree. His best path would have been to say, yeah, I like them deflated, but I don't ask them to go below the legal limits. Maybe because he does ask them, he was afraid of throwing those guys under the bus.
Trail also that he did ask.
And he already knows that guy's a loose cannon and would throw him right back under the bus. Maybe that's why he didn't. But some well-calculated answer like that would have been a much better test, because now we all look back and we say, okay, not only did you do it, but you lied. You lied over and over again, and that looks worse.
We've got Damian Woody coming up in a moment. I thought it'd be good to pop him on. He was nice enough to come on Friday, kind of got into an argument with an ex-teammate because he thought that they should be punished, and it turns out that he was on the side of right. So Damian Woody will join us in just a moment. We'll take more of your phone calls as well. Stay right where you are. Kay, LaGreca, Rucco, and you on Yes and on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.